Welcome back. My guest is Daryl Joseph. He's the founder and director of an organization called Josal Consulting, workplace mental health specialist. Among his many endeavors, well, let me start with this. Daryl is a graduate of Yorkville University at New Brunswick, Canada. He's a certified employee assistance professional. That's the highest available credential in the employee assistance profession. He served as a commissioner in the Employee Assistance Certification Commission of the International Employee Assistance Professionals Association. That is the EACC is responsible for maintaining the integrity of certified employee assistance program credentials worldwide. He's a past speaker at the International EAPA conference, and he's a public relations officer of the local branch of the EAPA. Mr. Joseph was reported in the Guardian newspaper this past week with a headline on a story saying, "Let's change the crime discussion. The time has come for us to change how we speak about the crime situations in our country from one reactionary to a more solution-oriented discussion." Good morning. Good to have you, sir.
Hi, good morning, Andy.
Right.
And this is Daryl.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do I say?
No, sometimes people say Mr. Joseph.
Oh, I
and,
see.
you know,
Okay, I see what
that's
you mean.
fine in,
Yeah,
in formal circles, but
Yeah, okay.
it's Sunday.
Good.
It's
So
Daryl,
what you mean when you say it's time to change the discussion?
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, I just want to add two things in terms of credentials. I come from a very middle class background, very, very simple background, but family and the love of family is one of the main things that help me together.
Yeah.
And I am also, I wear many hats. I'm also the public relations officer of an organization called Trinidad All Stars. You're supposed to cue the applause there, right? Anyway, yeah.
And then my band.
Right, my band too. Okay? So I've been with them for 30 plus years. So while I may not be necessarily from the area, I understand the area quite well.
Okay.
And because of my work, it allows me to have a very wide breadth of intimate contact and intimate discussion and idea exchange and experience exchange with people across segments of the society. All right.
Yeah.
So why I said that in particular, it's so funny how that whole thing came up. About 6-7 years ago, I used to get asked very often to comment from a psychological perspective on things happening in the country. And while I think that may have served me at that particular time, what I found happening was I was just saying the same kinds of things over and over again. So we diagnose situations and put a label on it, but I wasn't getting the sense that people who were listening knew what to do, how to solve it, how to overcome the problem. So I made a decision in my mind that look, I only want to do solution talk from here on, because in my company's day-to-day practice, we provide solutions to people's problems. That's what we are about. When I was called last week by a reporter, good friend of mine, I'm not calling his name, but he called me and he asked me to comment.
His name is on this article.
Right, his name. So you would go and get the article. I'm not calling him, or you could call him.
Well, yeah.
Right?
A good call.
He called me
University.
and asked me to comment on. At the time I hear comment on, it's like my skin started to stand up one time. Comment on the recent spate of murders and whether we are as a country are traumatized. I would not lie. I got upset. And I said, listen, I'm not interested in answering that question. I have a better question I'm interested in answering. What are we doing about it? What is the time frame to do it? Who's supposed to do it? I said, actually, you get 3 questions. I said, and you could quote me on that. And I forgot about it. The next morning, I started getting phone calls saying, Daryl, I seen you in the papers.
Yeah.
So it came about like that, and then you saw it, and well, here I am. All right?
Yeah.
So I'm here to talk solutions. And I have an idea, I have a framework within which we can provide solutions to the problem. A lot of what the last 2 guests were saying actually encompasses things that I have jotted down here, notes that I've had. I've been thinking about this thing for years. I'm glad for the opportunity to actually start to get it out, because it's just been in my head. But I have a sort of a framework that I would like to present this morning. I don't know how much time we have.
Well, I'm glad you raised that, because the other guest who's sitting here, he's Kwesi Atiba, and he's he lived all his life. I'm not sure he ever went away and spent any time studying or living in another country. So
Right.
I'm saying that he lived all his life in a community in Laventille.
Right.
So he should have been on between 10:30 and 11 to talk
Okay.
about this statement made by the Member of Parliament for Laventille West, who says that, well, that's the headline in the paper, Laventille is in crisis and he wants us to get together to fix it. So, but I wasn't aware that he was out there waiting his turn. So I'm glad you say how much time we have. So Kwesi, if at this point, if you want to join the discussion, we could go for as long as the time you have. So
Providing lunch?
Well, yeah, that's not a problem at all. That's not a problem at all.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
I join you
yeah.
because I have some things to do.
Come in.
So we could pivot from one to the other.
Right,
Because
okay.
so let's talk about what you have in mind as
Right.
to,
So
as to
I
what to
need
do.
I need to get these ideas out. All right. Crime, as we know, is a multifaceted problem. It's not caused by one thing. What tends to happen is that, there's a saying that if your only tool is a hammer, you see every problem as a nail. Okay? What tends to happen is people see the crime problem from their own perspective and try to provide magic bullet solutions that will just magically solve everything. So we know that crime is happening and it's out of hand. Okay, so let's get a police commissioner who could deal with it, right? And he'll fix everything. He can't fix everything because his approach takes care of one aspect of the problem. I heard the last speaker speak about, mention the word hope, that these young boys don't have hope. Where's the hope coming from? You take a gun out of their hand. Do they now suddenly have hope?
We have to replace it with something.
They're going to replace it with something else. They're going to replace it with the next thing that looks like it is happening. I also heard the last guy say, tell your son crime doesn't pay, but they're seeing it paying in front of them. So we have to replace the images that they see. We have to provide hope to them so that they have realistic
it doesn't matter that,
alternatives.
listen, so we had 23 in a 7-day period. You have 7 one day, 4 the next day, 5 the next day. But it doesn't make a difference to them that those are their friends, 18 and 20, who are being cut down.
They're human beings. They're going to get angry, and the primary response is going to be reprisal. I have to get back. All right, but let me not get away too far from what I want to say, and let me get into it. So what I've looked at is 3 different dimensions that we need ongoing positive intervention in order to bring this crime thing under control, and understand that we're talking everything from short-term measures all the way to long-term measures is going to take maybe decades to fulfill. Okay, I'm looking at the social aspect of it, the economic aspect of it, and then direct crime reduction itself. So I'm looking at 3 different aspects of it, okay? My particular area of expertise is within the social side of it, so I'll be concentrating more on that, but I will touch on the economic and on crime reduction as well. Now, in terms of social intervention, we agree that we have lost our way in this country, okay? We agree that if you speak to people, especially who have been around for a while, they will tell you, oh, you remember when you could leave your door open and your neighbor would share things with you and the village would look after the child and that sort of thing. All right, so things were happening for us in a particular way that we're working. We've lost that. What I'm saying is we need to stop saying we've lost it and we need to figure out what we need to get back to. We need to define our values, the attitudes, and the behavior that we want of our citizenry. In the same way as an organization will have a vision or a mission statement for itself, and that vision will define the way they go about doing things, we need to first of all define what those values, and it could be simple things, kindness, patience, generosity, keeping your anger under control.
But you know, some people have been trying to do these things in different ways.
Right, but we need the attention of the Prime Minister and the people who lead the country to own this and to take charge of it. We don't need a little NGO on the side doing it. We need this to come from the top, and we need focus from the top.
But there are many NGOs who are disposed to doing that, whose reason to be is to address some of these things. No?
And they need a champion that every voice will hear. I know there are NGOs. Ask me to name them. I can't name them.
Yeah.
Right? So they need championship. They need champions and a voice from the top. This needs to be top
What
priority.
I could think of the top of my head is an organization called the Rose Foundation.
That is one, yeah.
And there are several like that who they say, that they go into communities and pluck people out, and make, they have a term for some of them, ambassadors, guys whose lives were purported to have been turned around.
They do good work.
And
All Stars does good work.
yeah.
Desperados, Renegades, all these bands do good work. I know about Steel Band.
Yeah.
We do good work as well. But we need support and expansion. All of these different NGOs, community groups, faith-based organizations, they need to not be relegated to the sidelines, and they need to be given the resources and the attention and the support to do more than they're doing right now. All right? Now, so the very first thing I spoke about was defining those values, attitudes, and so on, right? Now we need to go about a campaign of spreading the gospel. And what do I mean by spreading the gospel? I go back to the example the last guest was saying that, they tell the son, they're being told, tell the son, crime doesn't pay. But what they're seeing is that crime actually is paying. Those are the examples that we have, all right? We have some brilliant marketing minds in this country. They're so brilliant, they could win an election. They could campaign for a party, and they could get the entire country to agree and vote for that particular institution to put them in government. We have marketing reps and marketing execs who work with their teams and come up with campaigns that are world class, that could win people over, that have gotten all sorts of awards. Why not employ these minds to come up with a national ongoing campaign to change the narrative within our communities, from Westmoreland all the way down to wherever again. So we have all the different forms of media that are available to us. You have radio, television, newspapers, we have Instagram, we have Facebook, we have newsletters, we have flyers, we have billboards, pictures, articles, etc., built around a campaign of the values that we want our nation to embrace and hold on to.
But people will say that there have been several national crime committees under one administration.
That's
or the
not
other
the same
coming
thing.
up with these plans.
That's not the same thing.
They have been called.
I want to be driving down the highway, and I want to see a billboard with a man, somebody, and we need to use our icons as well. Huh? We need to use our soccer artists and our sports people, our religious icon. We need to use people and voices that others listen to.
I think maybe we have to sustain them, because again, I could tell you about campaigns that have sought to use Machel Montano and Bungie
ongoing,
and
sustained, targeted.
That's probably the problem.
That's the problem, right?
Let me ask Chris your point. Because you probably would have been familiar with some of those things. You may have been involved on one stage or the other with some of these initiatives.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon all of you. It's interesting because I think when you contacted me, it was about the statement that was made that
Mr. Hines, Laventille is in crisis and we have to get together to fix it.
Right. I just see that as political rhetoric. There ain't nothing more than that. Trinidad might be in a crisis, not Laventille per se.
You're speaking as a representative for there.
But Trinidad has its problems.
And Tobago.
Yeah, Trinidad.
Because more and more we've seen stuff.
One nation.
Yeah. But what I mean, you see more and more crime from Tobago in a way that
you didn't see before.
Yeah.
And I think a major part of the problem is that people talk about crime, criminality, and without recognizing that crime is a reality from, how do I say, time immemorial.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
What human beings can do is work to minimize, not stop. Nobody ain't going to stop crime, okay? So we have to decide what we want to do. We're in a situation now in Trinidad and Tobago where a sort of violence has come up. And many of the people are speaking but not asking themselves, what's the origin of this? What has happened? How did we get here? So talking about going back, where were we and how did we get here, right? As you made the point earlier, I grew up in Laventille, so my whole life is about Laventille. So, and I say this, to anybody, I've said it before and I'll say it again, Laventille has always been violent. And you know that, because you live in Laventille for a while, right? However, two things have changed in Laventille. One is the weaponry that is being used today, and two, the preponderance of drugs. Okay? So people are fighting over turf and that kind of thing. So military weaponry, that never happened. We don't know that. When we were growing up, we know this one pelted that one and all this kind of thing, so that some of the crime will, bad but non-fatal. In many cases, non-fatal. People will get hit, they will get chopped, they will get all that kind of thing. So they go in the hospital and they come back. So these are things we need to address. I have said, and I continue to say, that the drug problem is not a Trinidad problem per se. We have a European and American problem that is descending on us in a particular way, and they are telling us that we are supposed to get helicopters and get ships and get radar and all of that to stop drugs from going from South America into Europe or into the United States. They're not trying to solve their own problem by treating with their own people. So that drug problem deals with us too. Recently, we had Darius Figueroa talking about the question of marijuana and the marijuana situation, and if you legalize or decriminalize, that will minimize the present situation because there's war over turf. He's correct to a point. So a number of the issues that people are trying to solve, they're trying to solve it without going to what is the source of the problem. What is the source of the problem? Let me just, an example for Laventille is, when you think, Laventille suffers from, quote unquote, I put it in this word, migration. And it's a reality. It's a congested place, and we hear about all the talent that is in Laventille and that comes out of Laventille.
Come from there and so on.
But they move on. Okay, you can find Laventille in London, you can find Laventille in Toronto, in New York, in Edinburgh 500, in Maloney, and all these places. All that talent from Laventille. So what is left?
In the West as well.
Yeah. So you have a number of people still there who are trying to make certain kinds of decisions, make ends meet, struggle with life. But the people that some of us would have looked up to when we were growing up, they're not there. Some other people who were growing up, when you look around, you don't see them. As I tell people at 17, 18, we used to run the community center, have sports and all those things. Those people are gone. They don't live in Laventille anymore. They call me, we on WhatsApp, they're somewhere outside, And this is a reality, because if you live, the example for me is my own family. 4 children living on one lot of land, so as people grow, my brother ended up in Diego Martin, my sister ended up in Diego Martin, I ended up in Toronto, so my last sister in the place, and I said, wait, this doesn't make sense. So I came back to Trinidad, right? But there are many people who, as I say, we grew up together, talented people, very, very talented people, they're not here. Okay, so they come back maybe on a holiday.
Yeah, well,
and
it's part of the story of the world. A lot of us don't stay in one place.
Well, no, I'm saying there are people who are grounded, okay, and they are the example for other people coming up. They build things, they do things, and people say, hey, look at Andy boy, Andy used to live in Laventille. Look at Andy, look how Andy has, Andy is still there, and Andy is able to talk to the youth, tell them about his struggles, how we went forward, but Andy is not there. Andy is someplace else. So these are some of the problems. They're not all the problems, but these are some of the problems that we face. These are social issues. If you take my brother here talking about steel band, right? Well, he's all stars like Highlanders. Where's Highlanders now? Doesn't exist.
History books.
Right? Savoy is in the history books.
History books.
Tokyo almost in the history books.
Well, they're not.
Oh gosh, no, they're still around.
They're still around. Yes?
Really? I didn't know that. Actually.
Okay.
They're
So,
They don't count on the road.
yeah, so I'm saying that these are some of the issues that the society has to struggle with, has to understand. Our social scientists sometimes don't seem to understand these things. They're sitting up in UB and they, playing with their heads and all this kind of thing. So, but what is happening on the ground to our people? Let me just throw it back. We going into emancipation, right? One scholar said that African people in the West are living in a post-slavery trauma. And that is the truth. That is the truth. We have our people who don't even understand where they're supposed to be going, what they're supposed to be doing, and I'm talking that from the leadership right now. You know, people who feel that, you know, my position is as long as we keep following European American narrative, we would never get it right.
Yeah, but how does that really have an impact?
How does it have an impact?
On a 16 and 17-year-old person deciding to pick up a gun as opposed to do something else?
Right. What does his society tell him? What are the values that his society gives to him? What are the issues of respect and self-respect? What does he gain? Crime rarely has to do with...
But what makes the difference among all of us here as opposed to
somebody else?
You know, the 17-year-olds who choose, you know, to as you say, Daryl, decide that this is the way for me.
Right.
You know, I will get a gun and I will get it, you know, or die trying, which is what is happening.
Yeah.
Isn't there a difference to be made between the choices we make, and we are the Africans in the same kind of way?
Right. In some ways,
Yeah, there absolutely is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speak a little bit to that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I need to get through the rest of the thing. I fight on it. I'm going to get through it. All right.
Yeah.
But let me just make a statement on that. We are the product of our environment and our experiences. Okay.
Yes.
So if
And not of our choices to some extent, because we
your
make
choices,
choices, we
your
could make
choices
choices even
would
in the
be
environments that we
influenced
look
by
at.
your experiences.
Yeah.
All right. If I am told you are a star, you are going to be great every single day of my life from birth, chances are, whatever other things are going on around me, I am not going to necessarily embrace and absorb them because there's a constant positive voice in my head. And that is irrespective of whether you grew up in, not calling names, I don't like this name calling thing, but irrespective of where you grew up, okay?
Yeah.
If, however, from the time I open my eye, you're stupid, you're dotish, you have no hope for you, you're not part of the 1%, you're part of the have-nots. And then those messages are reinforced by things like when I'm age 10, I have to take an exam, and the exam tells me I am going to a secondary school, not a college, and in the secondary schools, there's only so far you could reach in life. If those voices are reinforced in my head, it minimizes the chances that I will even think that I could make anything positive of myself. I become desperate, I lose hope. Where or who am I seeing getting ahead? Well, I see the fellas on the block getting ahead. They have nice chain and they have nice car.
Yeah, but you
rims
see
and
what
all kind of
happened to
thing.
them. You see what happened to them.
You
about-
got
in the
to
pursuit of
understand
that.
it's not about the way you and I see things. You got to understand what is in their mind. They don't have hope. They don't expect to live to retirement age. They expect to be shot and to die by 25. So what is the point in trying to live a quote-unquote good life and put things in place for the future? Enjoy what you have now.
Because you value your own life.
Because
And
that is,
sometimes- is
your life has a short life span on it. So get whatever you can get now and enjoy what you can, because you can't do anything else. And that is the that is the indescribable sadness of somebody who has no hope. Somebody who thinks that they could only reach up to here and no further. And there's a difference between the one who will get involved in crime and the same guy next door to him who will decide to try and get a scholarship
Because
to go
from,
to
from the same
to somewhere.
environment. You
From the
have
same environment.
Yeah, yeah.
It is hope.
We have
We've
cases.
had-
Maybe they're not enough youngsters
had
coming from
three-
these
yeah,
neighborhoods
yeah,
and going to Princeton
Right.
and going to Harvard and so on.
And when you
as we
listen,
speak.
and when you listen to them, there's two constants. I listen a lot, and I tie things together. I assimilate different things all over it, and I tie it together, trying to make sense out of it. They all say there is somebody who was there for them. Usually it's mommy, granny, granddad, parent. There's always somebody there for them to keep telling them positive things, and they had hope. They believed it was possible. You will never hear somebody say they got into Princeton and they never believed that it would ever happen, and they never wanted to try, and nobody was supporting them. They always talk about support, and they always talk about having hope. And there's a lot of things that we do within our society that directly work against that. And I'm going back again, I'm jumping back in now,
Go ahead.
right? So I'm going back from where I was before. So we set the values, we set the context, we start to brainwash, spread the message, right? Our education system. We could spend whole day talking about that, we don't have whole day. Right now, our education system emphasizes passing over learning. Do you realize that?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, people critique it.
Our
but-
education system teaches you how to pass exams. It's not centered or geared towards learning. Do you know a person can have brilliance in several different areas of achievement, of possible achievement, but they don't necessarily know that, or it's not necessarily something that they see as being potent or valuable. You have people who are gifted in the area of academics. We have people who are gifted in the area of sports.
Yeah, so all
We have
different
people
kinds
who are
of
gifted
fields.
in the area of arts.
Yeah.
But guess what? Only the guy who comes first in test is doing well in school. The guy who is a gifted cricketer, a gifted footballer, a gifted runner, he is good at extracurricular activities.
But we have enough examples of people who have risen from those kinds of
And
circumstances.
we
so
need to
that-
be using those
We have
examples.
people like Dwight York.
Listen, you're
Yeah,
not hearing what
yeah.
I'm saying. What I'm
Yeah,
saying is
yeah.
we need to use the Dwight Yorks and the
Yes.
athletes to
Well,
inspire
how to
and
use them.
encourage.
How to use them more than
And we
they're there.
need to change the system that we have, which only rewards academic achievement.
I don't agree with that.
Huh?
I don't agree with that.
That's
No,
fine.
no,
That's
I
fine.
don't
Let's
agree with
debate
that.
and
Yeah, I
discuss.
don't agree
We
with that.
need to.
Right.
You see, change is hard.
Right.
And when you hear something that is radical and different from all you've known,
no.
it is difficult to accept in one go. And I understand
Yeah,
that. But we need to
But I
continue
think we have
talking.
enough examples of people who have prospered.
Yes,
coming
but
outside
there
of
are
that
many,
didn't pass
many,
common
there are
entrance.
many, many more
Yeah.
who never accomplished that because they either didn't have the support, they didn't have the resources, or it was never a big deal to them. I remember this. Kishon.
Kishan Walker.
I love to listen to Kishon Walcott. He has one of the most honest voices in sports that I know of. And he would talk about pelting this stick and pelting mango and all kind of thing. If somebody came and took him and said, hey
Yeah,
boy, you could do
right.
something with this, you know.
Yeah.
And
And
that
there are
is-
many examples like that.
And that is
where-
the truth.
Right?
But you see, nobody who come out of pan should say that. Nobody. Because you see that steel band, Trinidad and Tobago did not invent a pan. Trinidad and Tobago invented a whole orchestra.
Yes.
And many of the people who were part of that were not of the quote unquote intellectual
No, not at all.
group, right? And people try
Weren't
to stop that.
educated,
Yeah, people try to stop that.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, I mean, I say Island, that's Bertie Marshall.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What did he do for Trinidad and Tobago out of his own skill, you know? And you could go to any one of them, you know, and look at that and say, wow, you know. But of course, you may say that Trinidad and Tobago don't really value it in the way they should value it. I would say so too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But I'm
100%.
saying, people knock the education system, and sometimes I don't know what they're talking about. I really don't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
The education system is in a mess, and everybody going to the dustbin. I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand really. But so I can't debate it because you know it seemed you had to have a particular mindset.
Yeah,
in
you have to have a
I-
particular kind of orientation.
orientation.
Yeah,
I don't
and-
debate that.
and-
Yeah.
you know
and way of looking at
because
it.
you know we have a sort of argument about prestige school
Lord.
and all of that. But it's real.
And
It's
the-
real
there's
because
no-
the
yeah.
same people want, you know, they want to talk about Oxford, Cambridge, Princeton, MIT, and all of that. But if in Trinidad you talk about St. Mary's and Cass, you say, oh, you know,
Prestige
it's
school,
prestige
yeah.
school. It will, they are always in any different place you go. There are some people who are better than others. That's the reality.
Although
of
it
life.
seems as though, you know, there are
Listen,
people who...
listen.
That's the
I-
reality
the
of
people
life.
talk about the
I need to
Scandinavian
say
system.
something. I need to say
Let me
something
just finish-
very important.
let me just finish
Go
this.
ahead. I need something
Okay?
very important.
You know, it's a discussion that I'm going to get into in the future, right? They talk about the Trinidad and Tobago netball team struggling for 9th place, and we get 9th place, right? And in world netball, only 3 nations actually, has won the World Cup. Australia, New Zealand, and Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah.
Huh? Of all the people in them who play, Trinidad and Tobago is the only nation outside of Australia and New Zealand who has won the World Cup. You know, so how do we figure that? You know, was it that Trinidad and Tobago at that time were playing above their skill level, and right now we're playing at where we really supposed to be? It's 1.3 million people we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You know, what is the talent pool that we're drawing from? You know, West Indies won cricket for 15 years straight, nobody can beat us. Is it that these guys were exceptional, and now that we are playing at where we should really be? You know, so what are the things that motivate people, that cause people to go forward? There may be many, and people are not, you know, really trying to do it. Here you're in a crime situation and it's bad, you know, but I know a lot of social talk goes on in the society, you know, and that's why I go back to the, you know, post-slavery trauma issue.
Yeah, but you want to, so make your point, but let me
Yeah,
just say
yeah.
that
Alright, so-
there are enough examples among
Yeah.
us of people who decided wherever it came from,
Yeah.
it was there to rail against all the negatives that they've been
Right.
told and were able to rise out of
And
that.
I think
make
I think I'm being misunderstood, because what I'm saying is the existence of these people reinforces the notion that there are many more.
Yes.
That if we put a little more energy and focus into discovering and encouraging, the rewards would be multiplied over and over again. So we may actually have 10 Brian Laras in the country right now.
Yeah.
But because their talent is not being recognized, harnessed, and pulled out, they may never get to the stage of a Brian Lara. But they're there. That is where the strength of our people lies. We have invented calypso, soca, steel band, limbo. This little place invented all. We are bursting with creative talent and energy and power. But because we keep trying to pigeonhole ourselves and our talent into one particular area, one or two areas, we're not getting the best out of our people. And our schooling system is killing a lot of that talent because it is only emphasizing one thing.
That's your point of view.
Listen,
right?
listen,
That's your
listen,
point of
listen,
view.
listen. You will always have, yes, you have Oxfords and Cambridges and you have better schools and school, right? But I want to ask a question. How many developed countries, remember we had a plan some time ago to be developed by 2020, so
It's now
apparently
2030.
development is still something that we want. We
2030.
want to be a developed country, all right? So if you want to be a developed country, you got to do things that developed countries do. Yeah, we agree? Good.
But
Fine. Hold on.
I just want to ask, what does developed country mean?
Right, so
What's the
okay,
definition of
hold
that?
on.
Yeah.
We, in our minds, somebody has an idea of what that is and is saying that Trinidad and Tobago wants to be like that. If you want to be like something, you got to do the same
Well, there's
things
no
that
one
they do,
country,
right?
because the United
So,
States is a developed country in one way,
how
Sweden is a
many-
developed country in another
how
way, Norway
many-
is a developed country in another way, and some people make comparisons.
How many developed countries force their 11-year-olds to do an examination at that age that defines the rest of their life?
Well, it doesn't. The exam doesn't define the rest of anybody's life. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
Andy,
Yeah.
It does not.
unfortunately, because of my line of work, the same people it doesn't define end up in my office crying. The parents of these kids end up in my office crying, asking me, what do I tell
What do
my
you do?
child?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there's a
And at
phase.
that point, I cannot tell them, oh, it doesn't define their life.
Yeah,
I
it
have-
doesn't.
Yeah, but
and there
telling
there many
yeah,
examples
parents-
of that.
but telling
There's a
them
phase.
that does not make it real. It's
At
like
that
telling
point-
it's like telling an adult Santa Claus is real. That making Santa Claus real? No. You have to give practical, real advice.
You know, they say that on the morning of SCA, parents get diarrhea.
Yes.
Not the children, you know.
The
Parents
morning
get diarrhea.
I am invited into schools to talk to the parents 6 months before the exam.
That's what it is.
And most of my talk is geared towards helping the
Remember that
parents
the
calm
UTC
down.
has an ad on TV. I saw it a couple of times now, right?
Yeah.
The managing director went to some junior sec. The head of marketing went to El Dorado, you know. And it just so happens that in that executive, all of them went to no prestige schools, but they end up in the jobs that they have now. And the ad was reinforcing that. You don't have to, you have to have gone to St. Mary's and QRC.
20 minutes ago, I was talking about a sustained, targeted marketing campaign to reach
yeah.
our people. UTC hit it.
Well,
They
right.
hit the nail on the head. But we need not only UTC to do that.
You need more.
We need everybody to do
Cry,
that.
cry.
Everybody across the board. That's what we need.
But you can't talk.
Because that works.
Yeah, and yeah.
That, you see how you remember it?
Well, yeah.
We need everybody
And-
to
but I
remember
know
it
that there's-
every single day.
I
That
can tell you,
works.
I do know that you know.
I'm saying
I'm the
you
promoting,
can't
yeah.
talk on realities,
Yes.
you know, and sometimes we do that. You know, there's some words I have pushed out of my vocabulary, you know, things like democracy. I don't know what that means. You know, things
You know
like
what it means?
I don't know what it means.
We can say what we want around this table here without breaking the law. Nobody can come in the law.
Okay.
In other countries, they could do that.
Okay, but I
Fair
just
enough.
part of it.
Yes.
Right.
Fair
So I'm saying, as long as the society aims at certain kinds of things, when you say developed country, I'm asking, what do you mean by that? You know, I hear people talk about third world and first world. I don't use those terms
Yeah.
because to me, it has absolutely no real meaning.
Yeah, so,
But
yeah.
when people apply it, and then they're trying to strive towards this, whatever it is, then you put pressure on your people. You put pressure on people to achieve something that really, in some cases, is unachievable because,
It's
you know, it's not in your region at all. You know, so How do we do that? What do we do as a society? How do we bring our people? What are the values that our people should aspire to? I went on a radio program, and I'm speaking, and there's a gentleman died now, Aaron Fulani.
Yes.
Remember Aaron?
Yeah.
So I and Aaron,
Yeah.
so the person asked me to make a point on some issue. So I said, I can't speak yet. I have an elder here with me, and he has to allow me to speak. And Aaron said, go ahead and talk, Chrissy.
Yeah.
And talk. And the moderator is looking at me like, I'm saying, there's the respect I learned.
Yeah.
You don't go in front of your elder and speak. Your elder has to give you permission to speak. You don't speak if your parents are wrong and they're having a conversation. You don't jump in the conversation, right? Parents had to tell you, well, all right, you want to say something? Say it, right? Some of these are issues where our society has been losing some of these things. Why? We sit down watching Yankee TV. There are programs that my children could never watch on TV. Things like Martin and but something about parents. People, young people abusing their parents, telling their mother, shut up and all that. You're mad. No. But when you grow like that and you figure that is the way to live, youth has its place, elders have their place, right? Youth doesn't know everything, right? You are guided by people, okay? So when the people who lead us are trying to take us to a place that is unreal, we're striving to do certain kinds of things that have nothing to do with us as people. It confuses the society. However, if we, going back to the crime issue, right, and we were asking the question about the 16-year-old picking up a gun, all right? People, crime is about opportunity and, economics, right? You want something at 16 years old, it are things you want. Ain't no question about that, especially young men. They want this, they want to get this, right? And if you see a particular way to get it, that is being shown out there that nobody in, putting down, then, as somebody had called people community leaders and all these kind of things, so youth aspire to that. As young people, every one of us should understand growing up, what are the things we aspired to. We wanted certain things. And if you could get it in a particular way without putting out certain kinds of effort, you don't get it. All right? And when you see some people looking like they have success in getting it, even though, people will be, as you say, cut down by 25, 26, people will still aspire to that, and some will say, it ain't going to happen to me. Some will say it will happen to me.
Yeah. But one of the deaths in the last week was about a young man who took a decision that he was not going to join any gang, and he was killed because he decided not to join any
Yes,
gang.
yes.
But go ahead.
And he's not the first one.
Yeah.
He's not the first
Right. So what we're talking about here, we know these changes not going to take place overnight, but saying that they're not going to take place overnight is no excuse not to start today to put things in place, right?
Right.
You just identified that children long ago would listen and wait to speak before adults spoke. That is another example of the first step I spoke about. Identifying the values that we want our citizenry to have. That is another example of the kind of value we're talking about, okay? And what I'm saying is we need to use every resource at our disposal to bring that into the public spotlight and we need to find creative ways to do it, ways that people will look at, understand it, and embrace it. So if we need to use examples of people, a little kind of situation with something going on, another young person correcting another young person, for example, telling them, hey, you can't just cut in on pops just so, man, what kind of thing is that? We don't want that. And some sort of slogan around that is the kind of creative. I'm not a marketing expert, so I just use an example. People who could do this much more brilliantly and eloquently
There's
than
an
I
organization,
could.
or used to be, called Creative Parenting, and there are several organizations I know whose reason for being is to address this question about proper parenting.
Yeah. So we have a lot of, so we don't have to invent a lot of things because we have a lot of it there. But what I keep saying is they need support. And everybody, you listen, you could have the most brilliant idea, but because you work in the courier room in the back, Mr. CEO never hearing that idea because you have no voice up there. But if the people who can actually influence and affect others are the ones who are saying these things and championing these causes and championing these organizations. They have a much better chance of being successful. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying to dismantle it. I'm saying that what's there, we build on what's there. You know, far too often, we readily identify what not there and what not working and what working poorly, and we don't identify what is there, what working well, and what could be better, and we don't build on that.
But it seems as though some of the things are happening in the way it should happen, because what you're saying there are people who've been saying that for 20 years, that we need to take account of where we are and decide where we want to go. And
Together.
that is one of the reasons why in the early 2000s they started talking about Vision 2020. It ran aground, it was changed, some people had other different ideas. Now we're talking about Vision 2030. So that we're working knowing that we can't get where we want to go right now. But we will come to 2030 probably and still find that we're not where we ought to have been then, given where we started.
Depends on what we focus on. All right, so I don't want to beat up the education thing too much again, because but I think I made it emphatically clear that I don't think our system is serving the population to its best. I don't think we identify the best of our talent.
There's a study on
I don't
that.
think so at all. All right?
I reported extensively in a study by a team led by a man named Professor Theodore Lewis, in which some of them were saying that change the curriculum.
I keep hearing different versions of the same thing over and
Well,
over again,
right.
but I'm not hearing anybody saying, hey, let's figure out what actually would be best and let's do that instead. I keep hearing different versions of the same thing,
well,
and I'm fed up with that.
Yeah.
All right, I personally, I have children too, and there's hell you have to go through anyway, enough on that, all right? I just want to touch on working adults, okay, and our population, and something that falls right within my particular specific area of expertise, okay? Most adults, or a significant percentage of the adults in our country, work. They have an employer. There's a place that they go to. Our workplaces are some of, if not the biggest contributors to the amount of stress that people have in this country. What do I mean by our workplaces? The way our workplaces are run and the things that happen when people go there. I don't know, or I know few people who say they love going to work every day. They feel so supported in their workplace. They feel so listened. Their boss is fair. They recognize when they do a good job. The boss is interested in improving them and helping them to improve themselves. They understand when they have to go to a meeting because the child's sick, and there's no problem with that. They give them flexi time because they understand they're coming from far and they could put in a good day's work if they get in at 9 instead of 8. I don't hear too many people talking about that kind of stuff. I hear all the other things, which I'm not going to repeat here because we hear those things every day. Okay? My specific area of expertise is within the workplace and within providing what we call, or helping organizations to have a higher degree of wellness within the workplace. All right? And a lot of it, it may sound as though, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. A lot of it is really, really very simple, and it takes just the vision and the determination to get it done. There are 6 key areas where workplaces can be more employee friendly, and none of them have to do with improving salaries. You could do that too, but none of them. Hear me out on this, all right? Employee engagement or involvement. When people are involved in something and feel like they own it, they tend to be more participative and to be more enthusiastic about it. There are ways that you get, it's called employee engagement. There are ways that you get employees to be more fired up about what they have to do on a daily basis. There's work-life balance. We can't just be work all the time. And there must be understanding that people have different stages of life. Some people have children, some people have older adults they're looking after. And if our workplaces are more understanding of these things, we decentralize, we give people work from home options, flexi time. Some larger organizations even provide things like on-site daycare facilities, or like homework centers on site where the children could come afterwards and somebody could supervise them, let them get a little snack. People work longer when you do these things. Employee growth and development. If I go to a place and I come out of there better off than I left, meaning that I've gained some skill, I got a certificate, I learned something, I did some course, I improved myself somehow. Employee growth and development is one of those things that makes a workplace more friendly towards employees. Health and safety. Well, we have the whole OSH Act. All right, that's a whole thing by itself, ensuring that our workplaces are healthy and safe. We also need to look after the mental and emotional wellness of our people. Things like employee assistance programs, that's my thing itself, right? But beyond that, just wellness policies, things like rewarding people for improving their health numbers. There are companies that do this kind of thing, if you get your blood sugar down to a certain level and you get your blood pressure within a certain range, you're rewarded somehow. It may be financial, it may be otherwise. These are components of healthy workplaces. Employee recognition. There's nothing like being told, I recognize you did something good, well done, and a little applause. People feel appreciated, they feel like what they're doing is being seen. They naturally have a greater disposition towards work. And then finally, communication. One of the biggest complaints you hear in work organizations is, I don't know what management doing, or I don't know what this one doing or that one doing. There needs to be proper communication and regular communication, top to bottom, bottom all the way to top. You combine these 6 elements together, you have a workplace that people are going to, I'm not going to say they're not going to have any stress at all, but they're going to be a lot less stressed. And you know what's going to happen? When they're driving home, they're not going to be as inclined to bad drive somebody or to cuss somebody who gave them a bad drive. They're not going to be as inclined to reach home and to want to fight with their husband or their wife, or to cuss the little child who harassing them because they're tired and had a hard day. The national level of stress will go down. And there is an impact on crime and everything else.
Establish the impact, how that impacts driving down the crime rate.
There's a direct impact. If I leave the office with a headache and frustrated, the road safety people can tell you this, I'm going to drive harder. I'm probably going to be more aggressive on the road. Chances of me getting in an accident or causing somebody else to get in an accident, or at least being perceived as doing that, will increase. Somebody else is in the same state of mind. They drive, they give me a bad drive. I want to fight, I want to cuss, or worse yet, I end up in an accident with them. There's a direct relationship between where the state of mind I left in and what happens to me on the way down the road.
Those are the people who picking up guns and killing people, breaking into people's houses.
Not necessarily, but their child might turn out to be one.
Because
they all are constantly under stress and constantly angry. They get home, they don't have patience, they don't have the time to look after their child because they need time for themselves. Yes? To get over. They don't have time for the child. You're now leaving the child vulnerable to other influences. And that's the connection that I spoke about, that I tend to see things and connect things together. That is the type of connection that happens. Things don't happen in a vacuum. A lot of parents, not every child who is involved in violent crime never had a daddy or never had a mommy. Some of them come from 2 parents or good, decent enough single parent homes, but the parents themselves find it very challenging to parent the way the child needs because they face their own challenges. And a lot of those challenges, I'm not saying they only come from there, but a lot of those challenges come from the workplace.
You speak to that, Gracie?
Well, he started off by saying crime is multifaceted, and you get crime from all over the place and all that, Why would somebody like Bernard Madoff steal? Why would Madoff thief people money?
He was bright and he
exactly, he's a thief.
Yeah,
and they could come from that level, or it could come at the bottom level, right? He didn't have to take a gun to do it with anybody.
No.
But I mean, he was a master thief.
Okay. Hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. So I'm saying, if we only see crime at the fella down the road and the guy on the block and all this kind of thing, so we're missing the point. There are certain human values that across the board people will break, across the board people will destroy. And we have to ask ourselves, how do we get people to deal with these values on the one hand? But in this society, one of the things they always want to miss is the question of punishment. You see, I have no problem with corporal punishment, and I know sometimes when I get into these discussions with our bright people, I call them that, our bright people or social scientists and things, they tell about, you can't spank a child.
That was yesterday's stuff.
Right. I believe in...
It was banned in school and so
I believe in corporal punishment. I believe in capital punishment. I no joke. I ain't missing out on that at all. And I think, again, I'm saying, we follow in some societies who, in some cases, their arrangement, the historical arrangement has been going on for so long. They have certain kinds of attributes. And we recognize that and we accept good, sometimes very, very bad. We had a fella called Adolf Hitler. He decided he wanted to run things over the whole world, and they kill plenty of people. You go back and you look at
a master race.
Exactly. We have these things. These are part of
some of the human things. But you would reintroduce corporal punishment in schools?
If I reintroduce it in schools, I don't know, but you see, home, nobody ain't telling you not to spank your
Right,
child. And
yeah.
people just do that.
Well,
Just tell you, well, you can't do. A
well,
woman jumped down on me because I said, you know, let me tell you how I put it. You remember some years ago, some young men cornered a teacher in a school, in a classroom, and I think they threw a set of plastic bottles at her and all this kind of thing. So, and they took
Yes.
them out, and they were having a big thing over it. And they said they, they had to send them to counseling and all those kind of things. And I said on my radio
It's
program,
fancy things.
yeah, I said I agree with all of that. I agree with all of that. But they should get a good cut ass. Well, not like
In
it's
addition
riled up.
to-
Yeah, do all of that. But give them a good cut ass. And some people jump on that, and people call me, and how you could say that, and if you go punish children, if you go flog, it's punishment, And all the people who are telling you that these things are not deterrents, all these things are not deterrents. But where's the proof? Nobody can come with no proof. I'm saying, I say a thing like capital punishment in Trinidad, what they should do is a 10-year moratorium. Be hanging people. Okay? If that don't fix the problem, but we go say it doesn't fix the problem. But all the people telling you that research has shown and studies have shown, you ask them, well, wait, show me now. Show me how you get from A to Z. They can't tell you that, but they can tell you these fancy things. And some of the societies that they may want to look at, the Swedens and the, that have very, very different cultural practices, and they come down to, in some of these.
So you don't believe in the principle that says that it is better that 1,000 guilty men go free
No, I
than one
believe in
innocent
that.
man?
Yeah, I believe in that. If there's doubt, yes. If there's doubt, But if we have some cases, there are no doubt, absolutely no doubt. Catch the person, cold him, and 10 years you're trying to do something with him because of Pratt and Morgan and all this kind of thing. So,
And there's some people who take the position that because somebody killed somebody else, that person needs more help than others, and therefore you shouldn't take a life for that.
But
and you should
it's
work on the
punishment.
person and so on.
This punishment is what it is.
Yeah, well,
this is what it is. So I'm saying some of those things in our society, people see that. People see that. I know a man who killed a woman. Over argument for a foul, and he said, "They ain't having people in Trinidad again."
So you take his chances.
So he took his chances and he killed a woman. Okay, well, he wasn't convicted. He died in the prison. He got ill in prison and he died. But that's the position that he
Alright,
took.
so we have 10 minutes. Let me just see what people who might be listening to this discussion think
they have
about
plenty to say.
what you could bring to it.
Yeah.
222-8255 and 612-8255. But go ahead, making some.
Yeah, for the record, I am not against capital punishment at all. And my colleagues, they don't like to hear me say that, especially say it on the radio. If anybody thinks that I am not telling the truth, just ask any of my children.
Yeah, well, I'm
I have
against
4,
it.
all right? But let me explain something while I say that. Everything must be done in a particular way and in a context.
Yes.
All right? Beating a child mercilessly out of anger is dead wrong. Dead against that.
People just go from
Yeah, if from the extreme.
No,
yeah,
a certain,
yeah.
a certain context.
because that the argument people
Because let me tell you,
use.
because when you say, you know what they will run and say? The psychologists say it's okay to beat the child.
Yeah.
So I'm setting the context. What I'm saying is, if you use that form of punishment in a controlled way with love, it can get the message across
So you
quite
support
effectively.
spanking.
It
Yeah,
can get the
parental
message
spanking.
across quite effectively.
Alright, I think
All
let's-
right?
let's
But
see, we
people
have-
like to take things
Well,
and
to the
do it
extreme.
their own way.
To the extreme. Yeah, that's part of our culture.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
I want to advocate for not administering corporal punishment for a number of reasons. Number one, the severity and the tool used for corporal punishment. Typically, something that one gets like a pet with a buckle at the end of it. I fathered my children for 15 years, and never one day. I was just stern with them and administer, you know what? I subtracted love from them. So instead of bringing an apple every day, I said, okay, you know what's your punishment? I'm not going to bring that apple today for you. You're not going to get an apple tomorrow.
All right, sir.
And they have contributed to society.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Would you say
Hello?
Oh, we lost him. Try us again.
Yeah.
Call back again.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, hi, good morning.
Morning.
I think Tracy and the other
Yes?
Yes.
I like the idea
Darrell.
of state responsibility, and because I find the idea that setting up the framework change. NGOs do they do the work and everything, but state has a responsibility to play, and the idea that shifting it from the state into NGO private hands is kind of problematic, but that's cool. And I like the idea of creating staying with the community memory and how community lose, but that migrate out of and people, the barrel children and all that kind of stuff, and that goes into the thing of the community centers and how community centers need to be organized and planned, counseling the young men want that the grandfather to talk to the thing. They had you thing with the elephants when they were culling the elephants in South Africa, and they took away the elder. The younger ones went wild, so they realized that they had to keep the elder elephants to manage the younger ones and be the grandfathers and the uncles and that memory to talk
Yeah.
and successful. So I think we have the intersectional approach to things. I think those two are very interesting points.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning. Hello?
Morning.
Yes, good morning.
Andy, I said I have to call in on the topic of execution because, but if you recognize, you might not recognize it, but I used to be a fascinator in the Guardian at a point when you were news editor, and I always like to make this point when people talk about capital punishment.
Well, the Guardian, I was never news editor in the Guardian, so I'm not sure. I was news editor in the Express. I was editor of the Guardian.
Editor of the Guardian.
Okay.
The question of capital punishment. I always like to draw this reference. When capital punishment, the problem with capital punishment is not its effectiveness. The problem is the psyche that what it does to the psyche of the population. I remember when the execution took place a few years ago, the last set of hangings that we had. If you look at the newspaper headlines, one case that struck me around that same time is that death became a punishment to the degree of which a passenger that ran out of a maxi taxi that didn't pay $2 was executed by a maxi taxi driver.
Are you saying that had to do with hangings?
Well, it was a series of things. It wasn't just that. It was a series of vigilante justice that made the front page of the Guardian. That was all within that week. Now, it could have been coincidence. But the general sentiment was that death as a penalty was okay. Because you robbed me by running out of maxi. But the life of the policeman was only worth $2.
Well, death as a penalty is as a result of a long legal process, and it takes years and so on. It doesn't empower anybody to go and kill somebody because they run out of taxi.
But I'm
Yeah.
saying that when we take into consideration,
It's tendentious.
death as a penalty into consideration,
It doesn't give anybody license to do it. It doesn't give any individual a license to do it. But thank you very much. Thank you very much. So was picked up there. Well, let's just hold it. Let's
Okay,
get some
all right,
discussion
all
on
right,
before.
all right, all right, all right.
Yeah. No, I'm saying let's read.
Oh, okay, all right. You could take any two independent events and connect them together.
Yes, of course.
You could say that
totally unrelated things.
somebody
People
drowned
found
in the
out.
sea, so you shouldn't drink too much water because
Right.
water does kill you. All right,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know that the hanging of 3 persons for what they were hanged for
Yeah, it was 9.
empowered a maxi driver to kill his passenger who didn't pay.
3 days.
I think that's
yeah.
in my mind that's a bit of a jump, but what do I know?
Well, yeah,
right?
there's a clip about that about the woman who's Brazil string bus, and she says it's the doctor that caused that. Eric Williams caused that to happen. So it could, which a lot of people say now, regardless of who the prime minister is, everybody's problem is because the prime minister didn't do something. Good morning.
Gentlemen,
Good morning.
as long as the murder was willful and premeditated,
hang them hard. Thank you.
Still a boy.
All right, thank you very much. But
Turning into a discussion
big debate
about
about people say in enlightened societies we should move away from that. There are other ways to punish people. And, yeah.
Can I
ahead.
say something on that?
Go ahead.
I think what is important is that the measures you take to control a situation address the situation at the time. I do not think hanging or any sort of death punishment is an ideal solution. However, the situation we find ourselves in right now warrants very, very serious, strong action.
Yeah, but
in my mind.
Yeah, but the
right?
situation we're in now,
Yeah.
anybody who's committing a murder now is not going to get dealt with for the next 15 years.
And that's the problem. The problem is they're not getting dealt with in 15 days. It should be 15 days.
Yeah.
Right?
Good
Then
morning.
we could measure the spike.
Good morning.
Sure.
Morning, Andy.
Yes, good morning.
You know who talking about?
Go
You
ahead.
have to see my face.
Go ahead.
2 points. I believe everything started to go wrong without corporal punishment, meaning punishment in school
And at home.
and home. Things started to go bad from the time we started to cut that out. From the time that lady, I can't remember her name, Diana Mahavir Wire, came and said that and she kind of cut down on that.
So you're blaming her. So you're blaming her for criminality in the society today. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I hope he said no. I hope he said no to that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
We have to
remember
wrap up,
in the beginning I said that there are three dimensions. There's social, economic, and there's direct crime reduction, all
Yes,
right?
yes.
So with respect to punishment and what type of punishment is appropriate and whatnot, that deals with the third domain, which is the measures you take to deal with crime, all right?
Yeah.
But you cannot solve this thing in a long term if you're just looking at measures that deal with today. All right? We need to reformulate people's minds. We need to get people acting very, very differently. We need to ensure that everybody has hope and inspiration, regardless of where they come from or what their talents are, that they could do well. And we need our country and our economy as well to encourage entrepreneurship and growth and people being able to be the best version of themselves
Okay.
and earn a living at the same time.
Thank you very much, sir.
No, that's well, that is well said. I will support that. You know, we always, you see, life is the balance, and you can't leave one part out. That's why I raised the punishment question. You know, so it's about treating our people correctly. You know, at all different levels, helping them to go forward, because there are some people, you know, they need a little push, they need a little hand. You know, we will have poor people, we will have, you know, not too well people. The society has to be shaped that all these people have a chance.
Mhm.
And that's where equality is, that everybody has that opportunity. You know, not everybody are the same thing, but people have the opportunity, you know, so, and move people to a society where, you know, they want to do better. That people want to do better, not just economically, not just financially, you know, but we want to do better as neighbors, as friends.
Relationally.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and socially
You know,
also.
Yeah, man.
strike that balance, you know. But if you go off the edge, then
There's some
there's
consequences.
consequences.
And the consequences must be
Must have consequences.
Must have
be
consequences.
seen to be effective.
Yeah,
So-
and people must see it and know that it takes place. As you said, there's not 15 years down the line. Nobody understands that.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope we were able to advance this discussion to some extent. Darryl Joseph, thank you very much. Grace
Thank-
Steve, thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thanks for
thanks.
listening.
Thanks for being
your
here.
calls.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
man.
you.
All right.
Thanks for your calls.
Peace be
The
upon
news
us.
at noon. Sparkle McIntosh is up next. Much more to come for the rest of the day. Stay here. Power 102 FM.
So thank you, Andy,
Gentlemen,
and
that
thank you.
was